starting a subcommittee, but I don't want to be the only one you talk to, so hopefully we'll get somebody else here quickly. I think we have a couple other people on the way, and as soon as they get here, we will establish a quorum. We're going to hear 3 bills today, and we are going to start with Representative Oehlerking, and that is House Bill number 754. Representative, you want to come forward and begin when you're ready.
All right. Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Philip Oehlerking, and I represent House District 100, which is the city of Baldwin, Winchester, and some parts of unincorporated St. Louis. And I'm here to present on House Bill 754. This committee should be familiar with nearly all the provisions in House Bill 754. This is the companion bill to Senate Bill 97. Which went through this committee and voted out of the House 31-2 on February 20th. The provisions in House Bill 754 are identical to the perfected version of the Senate bill, Senate Bill 90.
Representative, can I stop you for 1 second?
Yes.
We have a quorum. I want to get it established while we have a chance.
Sure.
I apologize.
Not a
Barb,
problem.
would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford.
Here.
Gregory. Brown.
Here.
Huff. McCreary. Mosley. Trent.
We do have a quorum. I apologize, Representative. Go ahead.
Not a problem, thank you. However, an amendment was added to House Bill 754 during the floor debate that will allow a debt collector to charge a convenience fee for using a credit card or another form of electronic payment. This is a may and not a shall. This language simply provides an additional payment method that is more convenient and quicker, more traditional forms of payment. I want to thank the chairwoman and the committee members for the opportunity to present this bill to you this afternoon, and I could take any questions.
Well, it looks like everybody left except me, and since my bill is the companion bill, I think I pretty much know everything.
Should be very familiar with it.
I'm very familiar with it. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Anyone here wishing to testify in favor of House Bill 754? Please come forward at this time. Representative, you can stay if you want. Up to you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, Emily Lewis on behalf of the Missouri Bankers Association here in support of the bill. We appreciate the sponsor bringing it forward. As he mentioned, 3 of the 4 provisions are contained in the Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 97, the Banking Cleanup and Modernization Code, the Trusted Contact Program for financial institutions, and the Pooled Collateral Program for banks and credit unions accepting public deposits. We're in support of all of those provisions, and we are neutral on the debt collection fee. So happy to be here in support of the bill.
I have no questions. Thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor.
Madam Chairman, Andy Arnold here on behalf of the Missouri Independent Bankers Association in favor of the bill.
Thank you. Senator Gregory, we are starting with House Bill 754, just to catch you up, and we have heard the presentation and we're asking witnesses in favor, just to bring you up to speed. I have no questions. Senator, do you have any questions of the witness? Okay, thank you. Next up in favor of House Bill 754.
Chair, members of the committee, David McCracken, here to testify in favor of 2 provisions in the bill on behalf of 2 different clients. I'll start with the first one, the trusted contact language. I represent Leading Age Missouri. They're an association of nonprofit long-term care facilities. We not only advocate on behalf of our facilities, but we advocate on behalf of seniors in general. And we think that the trusted contact language would be a nice, extra protection for someone to be contacted in the event that a senior maybe is getting taken advantage of in their bank accounts. The second portion is I represent the Missouri Creditors Bar. That's a group of debt collection attorneys, and for years their consumers have asked, why can't I pay my debt with a card? And simply put, if there's a judgment of $100, They cannot ask for more than that judgment. This authorizing language, again, is a may, not a shall. If someone says, I don't want to pay that fee, I want to mail a check, completely fine. And additionally, there's a disclaimer that has to be read to the consumer, making sure that they understand they do not have to pay via card. They can just mail a check and avoid the convenience fee. So it's just authorizing language. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor of House Bill 754.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Gentleman Vice Chairman. Ray Bozarth, registered lobbyist, Missouri Credit Union Association. Every time we're hosting some members today, I just learned about new terrifying forms of fraud that they're seeing. So we believe the trusted contact piece is an effective tool to deal with the ever-growing threat of fraud, and that's why we support this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Anyone else to testify in favor of House Bill 754? Seeing none. Anyone here in opposition of House Bill 754?
Lisa Panett with Armorvine. We actually do like the trusted contact portion, but we just have other concerns about the bill. On page 2, there is a removing of a regulation and replacing that with an MOU entered into with the Director of Finance relating to bank safety. And we don't think that is a good change. Page 4, you are removing transparency by removing what was once a statement in the newspaper, and also posting on the banking house accessible to all, and that is now being replaced on page 5 if a customer requests it. And I would say a customer wouldn't even know to request it. Page 6, they get to report any suspected fraud to not only law enforcement, but also any appropriate public protection agency. And I would ask who that is, especially because they're going to be immune from liability. So let's just say that the bank thought that my account had suspected fraud, and they turned it over to not only the police department, but a Chinese protection agency. I found out, I tried to sue them. What would happen? In that instance, they're immune from liability. And finally, page 7, there's an exclusive authority given over to the Director of Finance as the administrator of the single pool bank method. And once again, I think turning over to one person is not the right amount of checks and balances we should be doing. And that concludes. Yeah.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none,
Thank
thank
you.
you for your testimony. Anyone else in opposition to House Bill 754?
I was going to say good morning, Madam Chairwoman, but good afternoon. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, State Public Advocate. I submitted my form online. I'm opposed to HB 754. I testified against the bill a while back before the House Financial Institutions Committee. I oppose to charging a credit card fee. Again, we're looking at another tax, another fee. Missourians pay fees and taxes of more than 53% of their income. So it's just another method of regulation. There has not been enough debate, enough discussion, enough questions, and there are several issues that may be in violation of our state constitution. There needs to be consumer protections in this bill, and it seems like it's way on the side of the financial industry. This is being pushed largely by highly paid bank and financial lobbyists. Missouri consumers need to be the focus here, and not that of banks, financial institutions, and credit unions. In my opinion, there's many sections of this bill that are flawed, and so I am opposed to HB 754. It's not ready for prime time, and that's my opinion. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Anyone else to testify in opposition to House Bill 754? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only for House Bill 754? Seeing none, Representative, would you like to make any final comments?
None at this time, thank you.
This will conclude the hearing on House Bill 754. Thank you for being here today. Next up will be House Bill 974, Representative Murphy. And you can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative Jim Murphy, representing South St. Louis, District 94, here to present House Bill 974. This is the peer-to-peer ride-sharing or car-sharing program. This is a bill that covers who is responsible for liability for insurance. There are three parties involved. That would be the renter, the rentee, and the app that put the two together. What this simply does is a blanket rules that say if one doesn't cover it and the other doesn't cover it, that the ride-sharing app would. It's a good consumer protection act that says no matter what happens, there's somebody going to be responsible for the coverage on the insurance. As you know, you are handling the bill in the Senate. We've worked on this bill extensively. There was a lot of back and forth with the parties involved as to their opinion as to how this language should be. We came to a great compromise on it, and now I think everybody's in order on it. And with that, I'll take any questions.
And just for information, this is only the peer-to-peer part. We ended up taking the rest of that out. The other portion is not in here at all. And to the best of my knowledge, I guess we'll find out here in a second, I think all the parties are in agreement on these pieces of legislation.
Yes, they are.
Questions for this bill sponsor?
Not anymore.
Anyone here to testify in favor of House Bill 974?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman. My name is Hampton Williams with the Missouri Insurance Coalition. I want to express my appreciation for Representative Murphy's hard work in bringing four House bills together, and also Representatives Christ, Hausman, and Coleman on working with the representative. I also appreciate the efforts of yourself, Senator, and your staff in working on trying to bring some resolution to this issue. It's the third year that this peer-to-peer issue has been brought before the legislature. The language itself is modeled after model language, which was developed in 2021. Approximately 30 states have developed something similar. It's a great model for how we can responsibly regulate developing fields by providing options for these platform companies to develop their businesses. It doesn't mandate strictly how one platform company has to comply. It just sets guidelines which says that some party has to be responsible, and it gives the platforms the flexibility to design their programs to accomplish that goal. It's a great program for disclosures for the vehicle owners. These are Missourians who are signing up for this program. It requires the platform companies to notify them of insurance requirements, to notify them that in the event that there's a lien or that they have some lender, that they ensure that involvement in this program won't somehow violate the terms of that lease. It protects the vehicle owners in that respect. It's also a great consumer protection program for the renters themselves. It does make sure that any driver utilizing this platform has a license, has some form of insurance themselves, and that in the event that there is an incident, that some party is responsible. It also requires that the platforms themselves work with the drivers, work with the vehicle owners to provide information in the event that there is an accident. And again, this only pertains to the peer-to-peer portion. It does not include the delivering network portion, which we'd heard a lot of testimony on when SB 181 was presented.
Questions for this witness? Senator McCreary, just for your information, we took out the delivery network piece out of this bill. We're back to just peer-to-peer, and I think we have all parties on board. We're in the process of finding out for sure, though, with this hearing. So, no questions. Next up in favor of House Bill, actually 974, 57, 1032, and 1141. I guess I did not complete the string, so. Also, just a reminder, I did not mention to make sure you fill out a witness form when you come forward. I forgot to mention that earlier, so you can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Brian Waller, here on behalf of Shelter Insurance. We are also in support, and we are also very, very appreciative of all the parties that work together so well and in good faith to come up with what I also believe is agreed-to language, which will be good for the consumer.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Michael Gibbons, representing Enterprise Mobility. Our concern with the bill dealt with the scope provision, which is 379.1905. That's important for us because terms are used and somewhat interchangeably in here between car sharing programs and rental car companies and how that works. And when NCOIL adopted the model language and what you have in front of you just makes it clear that the terms and the definitions that are developed in this section apply to this section only and can not be used as some sort of a bootstrap argument to get into taxation or vehicle registrations or things like that we are concerned about. We reached a compromise on the language with the car sharing entities, and we're in very good shape as far as we're concerned.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. AC Dinop, State Public Advocate, and I submitted my form online in favor of HCS HB974, HB1141, HB1032, and HB54. This was heard on the House Committee on Insurance on February 10th, and I was in favor and testified then. This is common sense and great public policy. There should be no lapse of insurance coverage for the person who's damaged or has a loss. It might be difficult, though, for the person who does have the loss to find out or ascertain exactly who is responsible. It seems like it might take them weeks or months of trying to find out exactly who's responsible to get the proper insurance information to make a claim against the other party. I'm kind of disappointed because we really need responsibility and accountability when people get behind the wheel. So removing the delivery network services from the bill really is disheartening. It's also of concern removing the rideshare programs. I think that everybody has to have that reliability to know that when they get behind the wheel, that they're being insured not only with themselves, knowing that they have insurance for themselves, but all the other drivers around them. We have a real problem with drivers driving without insurance in Missouri, especially in North St. Louis County, where there's people who just routinely drive without any insurance, no liability, no comprehensive coverage, and you really are playing the lottery when you drive in North St. Louis County. The state's minimum insurance thresholds need to be increased to today's economy and costs. And again, it's a responsibility of everybody who drives a vehicle. For those reasons, I support these House bills, and I appreciate it, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, anyone else to testify in favor of House Bills 974 et al.?
Larry Case today, representing the Missouri Association of Insurance Agents, to speak in favor.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor.
Good afternoon, Matthew Smith with Associated Industries of Missouri. I just want to go on record of support of this bill, specifically for the scope language in the beginning of the bill.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Next up in favor.
Reg Albashan, registered lobbyist for the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, in support as well.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Anyone else to testify in favor of House Bill 974 et al.? Seeing none. Anyone here wishing to testify in opposition to House Bill 974 et al.? Seeing none. Anyone here to testify for informational purposes only?
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Parrish, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, a resident of Lee Summit, and here with regard to this particular bill, it is addressing a need of something that I think is important for handling litigation and all types of arising out of collisions for over 30 years. It will do two things that I believe that it can be helpful, and it fills a couple of holes that are needed. The first being it helps with a level of reliability for the consumers on what it is that they are getting from some of the requirements of what the providers of vehicles now have to be or would have to be sure to comply with. And then second, it does both provide a stopgap for any holes for coverage if there is a collision, and while it still doesn't restrict if there's individual insurance companies writing in individual policies on what they would choose to exclude or not exclude, by having that process there and allowing for or requiring that insurance under those circumstances, then it can fill a hole that to where after the fact where you find out that lo and behold that there is no coverage, this would help minimize that from being a risk. What I think would help make this bill more robust is that the liability limits in there are too low at the state minimum, even though it may be a modest change in risk, that simply there is some increased risk where you have motorists operating vehicles that they may not be terribly familiar with. That would warrant a higher level of coverage in the circumstances to where that coverage would be needed. If there are any questions or if I can answer anything, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you. Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify for informational purposes only for House Bill 974 et al.? Seeing none. Representative, any final comments?
Again, I thought that we took a bill that's been controversial and turned it into a love fest, and I think we can all take some pride in that. Thank you.
I appreciate your hard work on this bill. Thank you. This will conclude the hearing on House Bill 974, 57, 1032, and 1041. And last up, Senator Gregory, Senate Bill 567. And you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to go last, as I had a couple really important bills in Senator Williams' committee. Trying to get Waverly as the Apple capital and Concordia as patriotic mural city. Very important issues in my district. State Senator Curtis Gregory, 21st District, 40-day Senate Bill 567. As I've learned this year, especially being on the Senate as compared to the House side, there's a lot of negotiations that have to happen behind the scenes. As we just passed out one of my bills last week with lots of negotiations, give and take, going back and forth. And so I've learned that there's a lot more than just goes into filing something and hoping you get across the finish line. What's before you today, I think, deals with an important issue. It's mental health treatment. I think it's been said many times before in many different committees that mental and behavioral health is an issue that is affecting lots of people at alarming rates. And so what this would do, or what I've been told and what I've learned is, as of right now, mental health services a lot of times is an out-of-network provision. As many times as you go somewhere and you're like, crap, they're out of network, I got to pay more now. That happens a lot. That's the reason I had an MRI yesterday, because of an issue going on with where I was getting my MRI from, and the provider, as of yesterday, they were in network. Today they're out of network. And so they're like, hey, let's get this done on the 31st. Can you make that work? And I looked at the little sign. I was like, yes, we'll make that work. So that's why I was late to session yesterday. So some legislative solutions that have been suggested, why patients are forced out of network. Many factors beyond patient control lead to out-of-network care, such as insufficient in-network providers, limited inpatient capacity, emergency cases where patients must seek immediate treatment without the ability to choose an in-network provider. Now, I think we can all be cognizant that if there's an emergency, I do not care where I end up. I want to get fixed. And sometimes when you're talking about mental health, that can mean the person is potentially suicidal and they need help right now and they want to go and get that taken care of. But it can sometimes lead to thousands of dollars of medical bills that they then aren't able to afford. So some of the legislative solutions built into 567 would be protecting patients from out-of-network costs by ensuring cost sharing is applied as if care were in network. Providers reimbursed at a Medicaid rate to ensure fairness while preventing surprise billing. Then apply the Missouri Merchandising Practices Act to hold insurers accountable for ensuring adequate in-network options. And then the bill would prevent insurers from selling plans that fail to provide real access to in-network behavioral health services. And as I said in the beginning, I know any filed legislation is just a good starting point, so I look forward to working with all parties to find a solution for this important issue.
Thank you for that. Any questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none. Is there anyone here wishing to testify in favor of Senate Bill 567? Just a reminder to fill your witness form out. And you may proceed when you're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Al Greiman. I am the CEO of Royal Oaks Hospital in Windsor, Missouri, which is about an hour southeast of the Kansas City area. I'm here testifying on behalf of the Missouri Hospital Association. I'm also an executive vice president for Compass Health Network, which operates around the state. At Royal Oaks Hospital, we are a pediatric hospital. We provide services for children and adolescents up to the age of 18. We are a freestanding psychiatric hospital, been in operation since 1992. What I want to point out is in Missouri, there is an inadequate number of psychiatric beds available. And so typically what happens, most of our admissions are transfers from emergency rooms across the state. Since 2002, we have had an admission from every single county in Missouri, also counties in Kansas and Iowa. Typically, when a patient is in or an individual is in an emergency room, really the emergency room is trying to locate a psychiatric bed anywhere that there's bed availability. We run typically at 100% occupancy. When we do have bed openings, they are normally filled within 15 minutes in the morning. So capacity is a real issue, and what I would essentially say that even if the insurance companies put every single psych hospital or psych unit in their network, there would still be a shortage of beds. We have roughly about 25 families, 25 admissions each year where these individuals are being sent from the St. Louis area or from other parts of the state where when they are transferred to us, they are an EMTALA transfer. So we do not have the opportunity to talk to the family members to let them know, or we can't even ask for payer source. So most families are unaware of whether they're covered or not until they arrive at our facility. And again, they are emergency admissions that are transferred by ambulance to us. It's not uncommon for me to walk into my hospital in the morning and see an ambulance sitting there from Cape Girardeau, from Joplin, or Hannibal, Missouri. So again, we receive admissions from all around the state.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do. I just have a quick question. Any chance you might want to expand your number of patients you can take, as it is a huge issue, or are you just kind of where you need to be?
So I think we are kind of where we need to be. The psychiatric inpatient hospitals business is very difficult, from a workforce standpoint, but really from a financial standpoint. It is not typically one of those areas where healthcare providers want to expand. And unfortunately, over the past 10 years, Missouri has lost about 2,700 psychiatric beds across the state, and that's what's put us in our situation today.
It definitely is a real problem. Other questions for the witness? Why do I keep saying representative?
That's okay.
Senator Gregory.
Real quick, sir. First off, do you know why we're losing all these psychiatric beds?
I can
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give you my opinion on that. So, with a psychiatric patient, there is no litmus test. You can't stick somebody under an X-ray machine and, say, hey, this individual clearly has a broken brain.
Right.
So, we're unfortunately have been subject to a lot of denials in the managed care area. If you look at the data that Missouri Hospital Association has published, the average length of stay for an adult or for an adolescent from a commercial payer is about 8.8 days. From your managed Medicaid health plans in Missouri, that number is 4.7 days. So they're very aggressive in the way that they review with the hospitals. And so roughly our average length of stay is about 7 days. It really kind of depends on, the environment that we're trying to get the individual back to and the supportive services that can be there. But
Got it. So just so I understand, let's say there's not enough psychiatric beds in St. Louis, and so a psychiatric patient is transferred to your facility.
Mm-hmm.
Who pays for that? And how, and what does that look like?
So again, most of our admissions come from an emergency room. These individuals are in a crisis, and so they're either taken by their family member, sometimes law enforcement or whatever, and those individuals are taken to the emergency rooms. So we may get a call from any of the hospital emergency rooms asking if we have an available bed, and that is an EMTALA transfer. So again, we cannot ask the question about their financial resources, or we cannot inform the families, whether they're in network or out of network. Only after they are admitted and we stabilize the individual can we discuss financial arrangements.
And then tell me how it works real quick. Let's say that this individual's on Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm trying to see the exact problem you're attempting to solve here.
Yeah, so Medicaid is not an issue for us. We are a participating hospital for all three of the managed Medicaid plans and also for fee service. This is for the commercial plans. Normally what we see is some of the larger plans offer an HMO product, and they have a very limited network that is typically contained to just a region. So in the St. Louis market, for instance, there's HMO plans with some of the bigger carriers that have very limited network access. So when an individual goes into the emergency room, that ED is just looking anywhere in the state to see if there's an available bed. And I'm sure you guys have heard this, but there are kids, adolescents, and adults that are boarding in the emergency room, staying there for 3, 4, up to 7 days, waiting for a psych bed to come open before they can get transferred.
So they get transferred they have a big health insurance carrier, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, whoever. They get transferred, and your hospital is considered out of network for them.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like?
So typically, what we try to do is reach out to that payer and ask them if they want to do a one-time rate with us because we're not a contracted network provider. And normally we offer them the Medicaid rate. Some will do that, but many times they just simply say, we're not interested in doing that. It'll be the patient's responsibility to pay the bill. So we have to consider those individuals as self-pay, even though they have a commercial insurance. Because they went out of network, they're considered self-pay.
Got it. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Thanks for being here today.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify in favor of Senate Bill 567?
How are you?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. AC Dinoff, State Public Advocate. And this is a great bill. Some of the testimony that has been already spoken here today, that mental health is really a critical problem in our state. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in our schools, it's in our community colleges, it's at our universities, it's in the business workplace. I hear of horror stories all the time, and I hear of stories of people trying to get treatment. There's not enough doctors, there's not enough nurse practitioners, there's not enough psychiatrists, not enough mental health counselors. People are resulting to suicide, to overdosing, to a lot of other things that are really hurting Missouri. It hurts our economy, it hurts families, and it's unconscionable. Mental health is so vitally important to Missourians and Missouri families. Missourians are being crushed, in my opinion, by insurance companies. It seems to me like it's all about money instead of the stableness in saving Missourians' lives. There's no time to get approvals and be on the phone with insurance companies, which could take, I would imagine, hours upon hours. I just know dealing with insurance for other issues, and like the senator spoke, you know, just for a simple MRI, they want to wait you out, and they don't want you to get those tests or those procedures. And then once you get to the location, they tell you that you don't have approval from the insurance company. And then that just makes people angry. I know another person where I took them to get the MRI, and we got there, and the insurance company still hadn't approved it, and you had to sit in the parking lot for about 4 hours till it was done. It's just a crying shame. It's a shame that when mental health crisis comes about that you would have to get approval to seek treatment. At the end of the day, my question to the committee is, why does everything in our lives have to be about profits over making Missourians whole and healthy? And I'd like to leave you with that sentiment. I think it's really important. I think this is an important bill, and I wholly support SB567. I just pray that there's enough time to get it across the finish line, get it on the Senate floor, and over the House to be debated and heard. So I just hope there's enough time. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Anyone else here wishing to testify in favor of Senate Bill 567? Seeing none. Anyone here wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 567? Seeing none. Anyone here for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 567?
Madam Chair, Shannon Cooper today representing America's Health Insurance Plans. Just go on record for informational testimony and point out a few issues in the bill and maybe a couple of suggestions to make this legislation a little bit better. Probably the Medicaid rate is the simplest way for consistent payment. When you say in-network rates, we might have 20 different hospitals in network, but we might have a different rate negotiated with every one of those facilities. So that language just makes it more difficult, but if it was the MoHealthNet rate, that's a clear rate. We all know what that is. We recognize as an industry that mental health is huge, and the previous testimony from my friend Al, it's accurate. We have a huge lack of beds. We have a huge lack of staffing and professionals that want to go into this field, and I think we're at the point where we either need a carrot or a stick to get more people involved. So maybe there ought to be language in here to mandate that hospitals in certain regions have to have mental health beds, or maybe some type of incentives to get more individuals to go down the pathway to treating mental health issues. But just a few suggestions, but obviously not here in opposition, but just trying to work through the process to make things a little bit more clear for our members so they do know exactly what we need to pay by, we don't want to shirk our responsibilities, but we want to make sure it's clear what those rates should be so that everybody knows that. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Senator McCreary.
Just kind of a theoretical question. So So I have insurance, I'm in St. Louis County, there's sometimes like a geofence almost around like what's in network, for example.
Right.
So there are no beds in network, so I get transferred to that physician's hospital. What is the rate? It seems to me that the Mo Health Net rate that you would reimburse the hospital for would be lower possibly than what would be a negotiated rate if it was a psychiatric bed in network anyway. So it seems like this is kind of a compromise to me. Is that, or am I making...
I hesitate to say I'm not an expert on the rates.
Yeah.
I would assume that the Mo Health Net rate would be...
So I'm on Mo Health Net Oversight Committee. I hear from, providers all the time that the reimbursement rate is so low.
Right.
So I feel like this bill might be a win-win for everybody because, the patient is not being held responsible. An insured commercial patient is not being held fiscally liable for that. But it also is kind of a lower rate than maybe what it would have cost if there was a bed available in network. So to me, this seems kind of like a good compromise.
Right, I think the Mo Health Net rate's good. That's where I think the confusion is if you say, well, you've got to pay the in-network rate. And as I explained, there might be 20 different in-network rates for those services. So we just want to make sure everybody understands, and the simplest way to do that is to mandate us to pay the Mo Health Net rate.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's also cost-effective, I think, for the insurance company.
Without a doubt, it's probably the best value for us.
Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else here wishing to testify for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 567?
Madam Chairwoman, Hampton Williams for the Missouri Insurance Coalition, testifying for information purposes only. We'll be glad to work with the sponsor. The only thing I want to bring up on is the enforcement mechanism that's proposed is opening up the commercial carriers to liability under the Merchandising Practices Act. Under the MMPA, regulated insurers are not liable under the MMPA. The reason is that the department which regulates us already has that enforcement authority. I'll be happy to work with the sponsor on language. There is an enforcement mechanism that already exists in the state law, and we would be opposed to opening this up for liability under the MMPA, but I do think that the objective can be accomplished through adopting some language that would put the DCI over enforcement of any such requirement.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else here wishing to testify for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 567? Seeing none, Senator, any final comments?
I actually presented a bill, Senator Brown's Committee on Professional Registration, student health loan repayment program or something along those lines. Apparently right now, just for your all's edification, because it might end up in committee substitute coming through here also. Federal dollars flow down for student loan repayment. Currently those dollars are just going towards primary care physicians, I think dentists and or chiropractors. And this would open it up to many different health professions, one of which I just remember from this morning was psychiatric type care. So just for y'all's information, I might try and sliding that into a committee sub to give another vehicle. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 567. I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.